and 1500 hours.
Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India holds the second phase of its parliamentary election. The northeastern states of the country lead in poll percentage. US Secretary of State calls on China's president in Beijing. Also raises concerns about Beijing's support for Russia's military in talks with its Chinese counterpart. Germany and France agreed to develop a new battle tank. Their defense ministers signed a memorandum of understanding in Paris. And Bank of Japan keeps low rates. Hints of future rate hikes fail to stem the fall of its currency. All right, first up, let me get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. India on Friday held the second phase of polling for the general election. In the second phase, 88 seats across 13 states and union territories went to the polls. The 88 parliamentary constituencies include all 20 seats in Kerala, 14 in Karnataka, 13 in Rajasthan, 8 each in Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra, 6 in Madhya Pradesh, 5 each in Assam and Bihar, 3 each in West Bengal and Chhattisgarh, and 1 each in Jammu and Kashmir, Manipur and Tripura. The overall voter turnout in 88 seats going to the polls in 13 states was 50.25% by 3 p.m. Right, joining me from Nanded in Maharashtra is my colleague Yogesh Sheetal. Yogesh, what's the latest you can share with us about the polling where you are?
See, Ramesh, in the morning we have seen that people are coming, not in a big number, but as the day proceeded, we see that people, the momentum, it took some momentum, and also in all the, there are more than 2,000 polling booths. Not all the booths, but some special, some booths, we can say some model booths also. In some booths, the frequency of people and the voters, basically the excitement we see was obviously very good. In some, it was average, and currently I am in a, polling booth. You can see my camera person. I would request my camera person to show you that how people in less number, at least people are coming, and in the all 8 constituencies, there are 5 in Vidarbha and 3 in Marathwada, the 8 constituencies, the voter turnout has been a concern in the past, but this time it is roughly around 53% by 6 p.m. Time is also, I think the final figure would be out by the election commission, so it remains to be seen that what will be the final turnout. But we can see that people have definitely used their franchise, and the preparations also by different administration, also election commission, to ensure that voter turnout would be a better, at least at this point in time in this election. So we can expect the election commission to release the figures so that we could exactly understand what are the figures. But yes, excitement was there. Young voters, we see a lot of young voters. They are just exercising their duties, their rights also. So the figure can be good. And yes, there was no any untoward incident. There were 29 sensitive booths in Nanded, particular Nanded constituency. There is no report of any kind of untoward incident or any kind of disturbances. Preparations were adequate, preparations were already made. So currently you can see the festival is currently going on in a very smooth and very comfortable climate environment. Yeah.
Yogesh, having spent the last few days in Marathwada region as a whole, in Maharashtra and Nanded in particular, what's the sense you get? What's the mood like in the camps of various political parties and their candidates in Nanded and elsewhere in the Marathwada region?
See, Ramesh, it's a very important question because coming to Marathwada, basically Marathwada, these three constituencies in Marathwada, Hingoli, Parvani and Dane. Apart from these three, there are 5 constituencies in Vidarbha region, that is Akola, Buldana, Yavatmal, Amravati and Wardha. Coming to Marathwada precisely, especially in Nanded. See, Nanded has been a bastion for Congress. We know Shankar Chauhan and then Ashok Chauhan. And since Ashok Chauhan recently joined BJP, it changed the entire political landscape because Nanded also includes 9 assembly constituencies, 6 constituencies in Nanded, 2 in Hingoli and 1 in Latur. There are 9 constituencies overall, assembly constituencies in Nanded. So since the Maharashtra assembly election is also due, is also lined up by the end of this year, this result will definitely, the echo of this result you can see will be heard not only in Nanded but also in Marathwada and entire Maharashtra, because the Congress basically you can also say that the bargaining power of the leaders, basically they are involved, particularly Ashok Chauhan, will definitely get impacted. Apart from that, coming to other, on 3 seats there is a direct face-off between 2 factions of Shiv Sena, that is Yavatmal, Buldana and Hingoli. In these 3 seats, Shiv Sena, both factions of Shiv Sena, Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray and Shiv Sena led by Eknath Shinde, there is a direct face-off. Apart from Shiv Sena, we know also that there is a split in NCP also, NCP Sharad Chandra Pawar and NCP led by Ajit Pawar. So there are multiple parties set up, and at the same time, in the meantime, we can see that Vanchit Bahujan Aghadi led by Prakash Ambedkar has made the entire political fight very interesting because they have fielded their candidates in 7 seats out of 8 seats. In one seat there is other leader, but yes, on 7 seats they are contesting. Now why it is important? Because in 2019 we had seen that Prakash Ambedkar had contested on 2 seats, Akola and Solapur. In those seats what happened? The Congress couldn't win, and also even Prakash Ambedkar also couldn't secure their seat, but the fragmentation of vote was so decisive that Congress also, even the last time, the bargaining, the negotiation and the seat sharing communications were completely on to ensure that Vanchit Bahujan Aghadi is also included in that India alliance, but it couldn't happen, and that is the reason why the entire political parties are very, they are quite infinitely, they are curious to know that what would be the situation. At the same time, also this sympathy vote, because sympathy Marathwada has been a bastion for Shiv Sena. Earlier it was ruled by Nizam rule, later on Mukul Wasnik and top leaders represented these constituency. Later on, since the emergence of Balasaheb Thackeray, after the emergence of Balasaheb Thackeray, Shiv Sena just dominated the entire seat. Now since Shiv Sena has split, now the sympathy and silent vote of sympathy will decide the entire fate of the region. So this is multiple factors are there, Ramesh, at this point.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Yogesh, thank you. Yogesh Sheetal reporting there from Nanded in Maharashtra. Moving on, India's top court on Friday rejected the plea seeking a cross-verification of votes cast using the electronic voting machine and the voter verifiable paper audit trail. The court also rejected a return to the ballot paper system for elections. The court said that it had discussed the protocols and technical aspects and therefore rejected the request for a 100% verification of the electronic voting machines and the VVPAT slips. Now, electronic voting machines have revolutionized elections in India. They are being used in almost all the elections conducted by the Election Commission of India. The next report gets you the unique story of the electronic voting machine. Take a look.
Electronic voting has become a hallmark of elections in India. Voting is done through the electronic voting machine or the EVM, which is a device used to electronically record and count votes. The Indian EVM system is also called ECI EVM, meaning an EVM specifically designed, manufactured indigenously and used as per the Election Commission's rule. EVMs were first used in the Parur Assembly constituency in the southern state of Kerala in 1982. They were used in all 543 lower house constituencies during the 2004 general elections. An EVM consists of the ballot unit and control unit. To make the system more transparent, the voter verifiable paper audit trail or VVPAT was introduced. It was used across all the constituencies during the 2019 general elections. So how does an EVM VVPAT work? People cast their vote by pressing the button on the ballot unit next to the name and symbol of the candidate of their choice. A paper slip showing the details of the candidates is generated and is visible for about 7 seconds through the transparent window of VVPAT. The ECI EVM can record a maximum of 2,000 votes. To better understand EVM's efficiency, it is important to look at how they fare in comparison to paper ballots, which were earlier used in general elections. Since voting is done by pressing a button, there is no invalid vote unlike the paper ballot system, in which votes may become invalid due to improper marking. An EVM can record up to 4 votes per minute, giving security forces ample time to respond to any booth capturing attempt. In the paper ballot system, there have been incidents of ballot boxes being stuffed with fraudulent votes. Counting of votes recorded in EVMs usually takes less than a day, while in paper ballot systems, manual counting can last for weeks. The use of EVMs reflects the evolution of the Indian electoral process with changing times and technology.
That was all about the Indian elections. Moving on for now, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing after holding talks with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi and Public Security Minister Wang Xiaohong. The U.S. Secretary of State raised concerns about China's support for Russia's military in its conflict with Ukraine, one of the many contentious bilateral, regional and global issues between the world's biggest economies. The two sides also discussed Taiwan and tensions in the South China Sea.
In today's meetings, I discussed the PRC's dangerous actions in the South China Sea, including against routine Philippine maintenance operations and maritime operations near the Second Thomas Shoal. Freedom of navigation and commerce in these waterways is not only critical to the Philippines, but to the U.S. and to every other nation in the Indo-Pacific, and indeed around the world. That's why so many nations have expressed concern about the PRC's maritime maneuvers. I made clear that while the U.S. will continue to work to de-escalate tensions, our defense commitments to the Philippines remain ironclad.
And the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken also urged China to discourage Iran and others from escalating the conflict in West Asia.
China can play a constructive role. I encourage China to use its influence to discourage Iran and its proxies from expanding the conflict in the Middle East, and to press Pyongyang to end its dangerous behavior and engage in dialogue.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has advocated that the U.S. economic growth was likely stronger than suggested and that the Biden government was keeping all options open to respond to threats from China's excess industrial capacity. Yellen said that China exporting its way to full employment is not acceptable to the rest of the world. She said that the issue threatens producers of similar goods in the US, Europe, Japan, and emerging markets such as India and Mexico. The same issue was discussed intensively with Chinese officials in Washington, D.C. on the sidelines of an International Monetary Fund and World Bank meetings last week. Yellen acknowledged, though, that the problem will not be resolved in a day or even a week. She also discussed inflation and the U.S. economy.
I think I still see in the underlying core drivers of economic activity considerable strength. So I think that the U.S. economy continues to perform very, very well. And I think, to me, that was evident. The headline figure was off a little bit, but for reasons that are peculiar and not really indicative of underlying strength. The fundamentals here are in line with inflation continuing down back toward normal levels.
And still to come on DD India Live. China adds a new tariff law to its arsenal of trade defense instruments. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz urges high CO2 emerging economies to step up climate action, calls for a new approach to financing climate protection worldwide. And Bangladesh Weather Department issues nationwide heat wave alert. Schools closed, online classes enforced as heat claims lives.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. China has passed a tariff law, leaving its biggest trade partners in no doubt that it can hit back should they put tariffs on the exports of the world's second largest economy. The tariff law is the latest addition to Beijing's arsenal of trade defense instruments as it maintains an uneasy truce with the US following a trade war that kicked off during the erstwhile Trump government. Two British nationals accused of Chinese espionage made a court appearance in London on Friday. Christopher Cash and Christopher Berry face charges of disclosing sensitive information to China, violating the Official Secrets Act. Both were granted bail until their next hearing at London's Old Bailey Court, scheduled for the 10th of May. A multinational naval training exercise took place near Palawan in the Philippines on Thursday. The Philippines, France and the US took part in the drill. The drill came amid escalating maritime encounters between the Philippines and China in the South China Sea. The joint drill involves more than 17,000 troops from both the Philippines and the United States, with France and Australia also joining in some of the activities. France and Germany agreed on Friday to move to the next phase of a project to jointly develop a battle tank by the year 2040. Germany's Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said that there is still a long way to go to realize Germany's joint military tank project with France, but he hailed a memorandum of understanding as an important milestone during a visit to Paris. Speaking alongside his French counterpart Sébastien Lecornu, Pistorius said contracts with industry are expected to be finalized for the main ground combat system by the end of the year, after which he is confident the German parliament would pass the scheme. The MGCS, the second major arms industry project between the two countries, alongside the ambitions to build a next-generation fighter jet known as FCAS, is supposed to replace Germany's legacy Leopard and France's Leclerc systems. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz called on emerging economies with high CO2 emissions to contribute more to the international fight against climate change. According to the high-level expert group on climate finance, $2.4 trillion a year will be needed by 2030 for the transformation in the developing and emerging countries. Addressing the delegates at Pittsburgh Climate Dialogue in Berlin on Friday, Scholz said that a new approach to financing climate protection worldwide is needed.
According to the independent high-level expert group on climate finance, $2.4 trillion a year will be needed by 2030 for the transformation in the developing and emerging countries. That is a huge sum. And because we are here among ourselves, among friends and like-minded people, I would also like to address the elephant in the room. Public money alone and from a small group of countries will not be enough for investments of this magnitude, and no matter how hard we try.
Thailand's Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin met with his Bangladeshi counterpart Sheikh Hasina on Friday in Bangkok, where both countries signed agreements to boost trade, tourism and energy cooperation. Thailand also praised Bangladesh on its humanitarian assistance for the Rohingya refugees displaced from Myanmar since the year 2017. Hasina is in Bangkok as part of a 6-day official visit to the Southeast Asian nation. And talking about Bangladesh, its weather department has issued a countrywide fresh heat wave alert for the next 72 hours from Thursday morning onwards. The heat wave condition has forced officials to close schools and colleges till the 27th of April. Dhaka University decided to hold online classes. At least 10 people have died of suspected heat stroke in the last couple of days in different parts of the country. The Bank of Japan on Friday kept interest rates around zero and highlighted a growing conviction that inflation was on track to durably hit 2% in coming years, signaling its readiness to hike borrowing costs later this year. The central bank also stuck to its guidance made in March to keep buying government bonds around the current pace, dashing hopes by some traders that it could soon taper purchases partly to slow the yen's declines.
As for our future monetary policy guidance, it will depend on economic and price developments at the time. But we see there are still high uncertainties in Japan's economic and price outlook. If underlying inflation moves in line with our forecasts, we could adjust the degree of monetary easing. But we think easy financial conditions will be maintained for the time being.
In Nepal, a national seminar on Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI experiences and lessons from South Asia, was held in Kathmandu. India, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh shared their experiences and perceptions of individual countries on the BRI. In some more news from South Asia, in a groundbreaking collaboration, an Indian company and a Russian company have been jointly appointed to manage the operations of Sri Lanka's Matala Rajapaksa International Airport. The transfer of management responsibilities approved by Sri Lanka's Cabinet of Ministers heralds a new era of international cooperation in optimizing the airport's performance. The decision grants Shaurya Aeronautics from India and Airports of Regions Management Company from Russia the authority to oversee operations in the airport's southern region. As per the proposal submitted, the selected Indian and Russian firms will manage the airport for a period of 30 years. India's Defence Secretary Giridhar Aramane participated in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Defence Ministers meeting at Astana in Kazakhstan on Friday. During the meeting, a protocol was signed by the defence ministers of all SCO member states. A joint communique was issued after the meeting in which the SCO defence ministers agreed, amongst other initiatives, to develop the idea of one Earth, one family, one future, which is rooted in the ancient Indian philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. At the meeting, the Defence Secretary reiterated India's steadfast commitment to maintaining peace, stability and security in the SCO region. To some sports news now, Indian archers Jyothi Surekha Vennam and Abhishek Verma have advanced into the compound mixed team final of Archery World Cup at Shanghai on Friday. The world number 2 pair just lost 5 points to overcome their Mexican opponents, Andrea Becerra and Lot Maximo Mendez Ortiz, in the semi-final. The Indian duo will take on Estonian pair in the summit clash on Saturday. Jyothi is also a member of the women's compound team, which had reached the final. Jyothi has also secured a semi-final spot in the individual section. The world number 3 and Asian Games gold medalist is in the contention for a hat-trick of top podium finishes. So overall, Indian archers have qualified in 4 finals. The 4 events where Indian teams have made the gold medal round are compound men's, women's, mixed categories and men's recurve. The Under Fire World Anti-Doping Agency, or WADA, will launch an independent review over its handling of a case that allowed 23 Chinese swimmers who tested positive for a banned substance to avoid punishment. The investigation will be led by Swiss prosecutor Eric Cotier. He will have access to all files related to the case and be free to consult independent experts. Cotier is expected to deliver his findings within 2 months. Calls for an independent investigation have grown since the report became public that 23 Chinese swimmers failed their dope test months before the Tokyo Olympics in 2021. But WADA accepted China's findings that this was due to substance contamination and no action was taken. China's 30-member swimming team won 6 medals at the Tokyo Games, including 3 gold medals. Golden State Warriors star Stephen Curry has bagged the NBA Clutch Player of the Year award. Curry is the second recipient of the award, which was introduced last year. The award honors the player who best comes through for his teammates in the clutch. Curry edged out Chicago Bulls forward DeMar DeRozan for the honor. Curry received a total of 298 points. DeRozan finished with 272 points. Oklahoma City Thunder star Shai Gilgeous-Alexander came in third with 160 points. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India Live. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screens now. Download it. So let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. All of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.